Let's see, are we going yet? Let's see, are we showing up yet? No, not quite. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Welcome everybody to the new episode of You, Me, and BTC. This week it is You, Me, and Tim, which I know doesn't sound as well. I'm not joined, at least for now. Zack may be making a special whimsical appearance later on. Daniel has abandoned you guys again to me. And so we're gonna have a little bit of fun today, finally. I know it's been off for a couple weeks, I know, because Daniel's always here kind of ruining everybody's fun, kind of directing us in certain ways. But we have some cool stuff to talk about because something broke pretty recently, something pretty big in Bitcoin. I've been wanting to do. It's it's been a while since I've contributed an idea, and I was the first person to say this, so I feel it's at least poetic that I'm the one who now has to present it to you guys. But anyway, I'll do my best. It's not really complicated. I actually like this because it isn't so much about Bitcoin in the technical aspect. It's about the government trying to get back into the stuff. And of course, I'm talking about the US Department of Justice. They've started a probe now into Bitcoin. So I'm going to spend most of the episode probably talking about that, talking about how this compares to what they would do to the dollar, what does happen to the dollar, because they're accusing people of using illicit, as they say, illicit tactics to shoot the market up. Versus the regular good old tactics to shoot the market up that are the entire point of the stock market. So you can already kind of see where I'm taking this. But this is episode. What is this? 243. So we're definitely getting up there. We should probably do something special for episode 250. If you guys have any ideas on that, you can let me know. You can let Daniel know. Tell him to give me and Zack a bonus, specifically me. Tell him that for 250, we should each get $250 for this. For no, I need to think a little bit bigger. We're talking 250, 25K. We'll do that. I need to start making some real money from this podcast, so I'm going to demand 25K, or else I'm going on strike. I need everybody on Twitter to support me with this. What's up, Jeremy? I see you there in the chat. It's not the whole crew today. It is just me, but I guess you and me as listeners, or I feel like as part of the listeners, we're kind of a crew. We are the You, Me, and BTC fans. We probably need to figure out a name for you guys, like Bits or something, or I mean, I'm not very good with getting like hashtags and shit like that going. I'm not good with like hyping a show. We tried a couple weeks ago when I talked to Zack about he's trying to get to 200 pounds, but nobody really else took up the whole 20 or 200 pounds before $20,000 for Bitcoin thing. I still think it's a good idea, but I need also some expertise, somebody who knows better at marketing stuff. Explain to me how we're going to name you guys. We're going to get something out for you. We need to start getting you guys some merchandise. You can get like coffee cups with mine and Daniel's face on it if you're a psychopath and you want shit like that. But I would actually feel pretty good doing that. I feel like a decent amount of I that would fill some holes in my life if I knew people were out there drinking from coffee cups with my face on it. I feel like that would at least feel like it would solve some problems, but probably not. We'd have to see. But I guess I haven't introduced myself. I am Tim Baker. I'm here with you guys tonight. Just me for now. Like I said before, probably Zack will be in. But I mean, before Daniel does start yelling at me about this, I can tell you guys, if you are finding the show later and you want to find out where our live shows are at, you can check us out at youmeandbtc.com/live. That'll take you to the most recent episode, the most recent that you can play, and then also it'll be if we are having a live show, which is every night, or not every night. We should do every night. Maybe at that point, then we can have a name for you guys if we're doing it 7 nights a week. But you guys need to just send us thousands of dollars to do that. No, but you mean btc.com/live is where you can get to the chat. You can get to the live episode then. And then also just on the website, you can find all of our old episodes. We don't have them behind a paywall or anything. We're not trying to fuck you guys over by stealing your money. We have all the content out there for free because we have some nice sponsors. I'm not able to do a commercial because that's just too highbrow for me. But one of the reasons we've been able to do all the extra episodes we've been doing, whether that's my show, the I basically just talk about, it's more like philosophy oriented, talking about different ideas and ways of thinking and trying to pick through them. It's called Tim's Two Cents. That's normally coming out on Monday. That's not a live show. Zack's the Coin Pod. He does interviews every week with that is definitely more crypto centric, more centered on the technology of Bitcoin, the technology of blockchain, the technology of cryptocurrency, and it's an interview type style. So you have two guys going back and forth. Mine's just a ranting monologue, pretty much. And then we also have a new show on the network. This is another thing you guys can tweet us is ideas for the network. We need some kind of spiffy, attractive name to call our kind of conglomeration that we're going to use to take over the podcasting world. Fuck you, Joe Rogan. But our new show that we have on the network is Unpopular Opinion. That is like mine, not tied to crypto necessarily. I think they probably touch on it sometimes or something to do with it, but I'm not quite sure. I haven't listened to every episode. But they're all those guys, we're able to do all the different shit because of Chronologic being the behind a lot of debt contracts, a lot of smart contracts, using the Ethereum protocol, using Ethereum as kind of like a backbone for designing contracts that you don't have to have a legal system involved with. And then I do, if we're going to talk about how Bitcoin and how cryptocurrency can actually influence the world, I think stuff like that, I'm not so much all for like bringing, I don't know, I'm not as much for the social stuff. I'm not as much for like getting Lambos. That's partly because I don't have as much. I'm sure if I had more, I'd be all about just getting Lambos. But I think as far as it like actually changing the world, stuff like that, stuff like just the decentralized side of Bitcoin and the ability to not have to rely on a government or a legal system, like a written code where you can have things based off of math, you can have things based off of code, which yes, they can be fucked with, they can be changed around, but if nothing else, they're at least consistent. Code is consistent. That's one of the problems with a legal system, is where you have judges who don't have to be consistent. So check them out. Check out Chronologic. Tell them you heard about them through the show. Tell them to send us millions of dollars as their revenue jumps up. And then just check out all those different shows: Tim's Two Cents, the Coin Pod, and Unpopular Opinions. And then always, like I'm sure as Daniel would say, always come back Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and hang out with us, because this is my my meditation time, and it just really helps me get through the day. But last week I was pretty much dead during the episode. I don't think I said anything while the guest was on. I, for whatever reason, am only now getting notifications on my phone about from the Hangouts. They're just telling me that they've joined a conversation, and it's from 20 hours ago. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But I'm a little bit better now. I'm a little bit more coherent. At least I hope so. Because, well, I mean, you guys don't really get anything else. So if I do just start babbling, I mean, you can try to tell me in the chat, but I don't really know how much that's really going to help. And I guess we can get into it. Recently, and I only bring this up because in the article they had they're mentioning it about how Bitcoin is having a slump, or in a couple of the articles I was reading. I have an article from CoinDesk, and that is the U.S. Department of Justice. Daniel has links in there for the show if you guys do want to look up at the same articles. It's the U.S. Department of Justice, CFTC probe, crypto market manipulation, semicolon, whatever the fuck that, maybe it's the colon report. And then it's from Bloomberg, is U.S. launches criminal probe into Bitcoin price manipulation. Anyway, they talk in both the articles about how Bitcoin's in a slump right now. Bitcoin, well, it's going up, but it's also going down. It's like I mean, yeah, but you fucks this. It was $1,000 last year, so I mean, okay. You can say it's a scam. You can say it's what is it, rat poison squared, or whatever the fuck Buffett said, because he's a fucking idiot. Which is what I should be saying. I'm living in a rented apartment, a duplex, to go in even more. But no, fuck you, Warren Buffett. You have no idea what you're talking about. But you can say all those things, but as far as it being a good bet so far, if you did it last year, it's still outperforming pretty much anything else you could have picked. It's still doing better than any of that shit. So you keep on trying to drag it down by saying, well, it goes up, but then it goes down. It's like, well, okay, but it's still hundreds of percents above what it was before. I guess it would be 700%. I'm not sure on the math. I talk all I want about how it's great that Bitcoin is based on math, but what do I know? It doesn't. I mean, okay, yeah, it's based on math. Do I understand that math? Most likely not, but it works. But yeah, they were saying how bad it was, how bad Bitcoin has been doing, and basically what their issue right now. And I'll get more into detail with this. And Daniel has a poll for all of you guys to have fun with. But the basic idea is that they're the U.S. State Department, or no, not the Justice Department. I don't know what all the different departments are. I'm not sure who does what. I kind of just figure that anybody can do whatever they want as long as they're just fucking with somebody. They're like, yeah, no, sure, go ahead. It doesn't matter. Just go after them. It doesn't matter. Like you can attack them. It's fine. But basically, they're going after Bitcoin. They're looking at and their problem is with they're saying, like I said at the beginning of the episode, illicit attempts to kind of shock the market into action. It like what they would call cheating, like cheater. I'm not even sure what exactly. Because I don't study this stuff. I don't study this law. I don't study who's allowed to get away with what as far as in market shit. But it seems like, and from history and from the little bit of reading that I have done, you just get away with this shit as long as you have enough money to make any trouble go away. But their problem with Bitcoin, and partly this is because they can't really, it's still kind of hard for them to get a grasp on it, is that the people who are trying to, but they just don't like the fact that anybody is kind of getting control of a market that they don't have control of. They're saying that like people will force out a bunch of fake transactions that if someone, I believe someone took the time to look at them, at least on the Bitcoin network, if someone took the time to look at them, they could see that they're not necessarily going through, but because the trading game, the trading, whatever that is, and I'm trying to retweet some of this stuff for the episodes right now, but my Wi-Fi is kind of fucking out, so maybe this stream isn't doing too well, but we'll see. But basically that they're either faking transactions, they're putting out a bunch of fake transactions that would then trick, because it is such a marginal thing, that then tricks people into trading, selling or buying, depending on which way they're pushing it. And that is going to be predatory. That is attacking those people. And their idea is that they want to make it safe and fair to the other people using cryptocurrency. And this isn't something that someone should just be able to manipulate without our oversight. Another tactic that they're describing is where you just send like really people who have a lot of Bitcoin or a lot of cryptocurrency, which I'm guessing they could extend this to any cryptocurrency. It wouldn't just be Bitcoin, at least as far as I know. Someone knows why it couldn't be, then let me know. But he's basically just that if you have like a bunch of Bitcoin, you can just send, say, $500,000 to yourself, just to a different address, and then maybe someone sees that 500,000 has been sold off or something like that, or has been sent one place over the other, and then you can trigger the market into doing something. You can, if you have, I don't even know if it would be 500,000. I don't know the threshold at which it makes a difference. I mean, even if you have a particularly watched address, that could change things. I mean, I think people have talked about watching Satoshi's original account and seeing what happens there. It just has to do with what kind of influence you've built up in the space, or if you do have enough money that you moving it around makes a big enough splash that people realize. and they're saying they're looking into probing and looking into Bitcoin trading and seeing if people are doing this. People seeing if people are doing just a bunch of mass fake trades or just sending money back and forth between themselves to kind of trick, jumpstart, just kind of like dumb people into, oh, we need to sell everything off, because they make a mention in one of the articles about these investors, because it went up to $20,000, because it went up so far, that because of that, a lot of quote unquote mom and pop investors, which is not anybody you should ever care about. If they're ever talking about mom and pop investors as far as Bitcoin goes, I mean, as far as anything goes, normally it seems like mom and pop investors get fucked around in any market they jump into. If you don't know what's going on, if you don't understand what's going, if you're just, oh, well, this went up a lot, so I should jump. That's just not a good idea, regardless of who you are or what you're doing. You shouldn't be. You, I never really get the whole we need to protect dumb people from stuff. I get, like, as far as like safety in a life, you can still make an argument there, but I understand, not just like, oh, well, I mean, if someone runs themselves over, is like anything like that, where they're endangering their life, that's different. If it's just having their money taken away from them, I mean, you kind of just have to let people do that, no matter how many laws you put up. And that's part of the problem, is the more laws you put up and the more commissions and the more approval agencies you install, then people start to lose their ability to differentiate between a good idea to invest in or a bad idea, and they just go, well, I mean, we even talked about this last week with the new, it was like a fake cryptocurrency that some government agency put out, and they say, oh, fully approved, blah blah blah, blah. And people kind of just take, most people, myself included, we just kind of take what we read on the internet for granted. At least for the first couple seconds, until you think about it, you go, "Oh yeah, no, okay, that makes sense." There's a picture, and then someone wrote an article. They wouldn't be lying about this. But I think you can definitely get a lot of people by just doing that. You don't have to put that much effort into it. You can just say, "Oh no, this was approved by so and so," and then it's guaranteed to make you, and you have to give like a feasible amount of a return on it. You can't go crazy with it. But I don't think this is, like, if you're going to protect against people just losing their money because they're stupid, then I see this more as a reason just for them to get involved, and then it's just going to grow from there. Because if you're protecting dumb people from being separated from their money, then you have to become fully involved, because the dumb people just find other ways to be dumb, and it's not really going to fix the issue, because they're not going to learn from losing their money. So it just becomes a cycle of the government getting more control over something and reining it in. Maybe that's their direct purpose. Maybe that's just a side effect. But I see that as more the threat for that. But we have a poll over. You can find this at the umeanbtc.com/live page. The poll is there anything anyone can do about Bitcoin price manipulation? Tune in live tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. So it's half a poll, half a promo. So whatever. You can also get it at ymb.tc/live, as you can see in that, in the poll. And I don't know, maybe I should try some screen share. I always forget that I have it and I end up messing things up, but it doesn't even look like I have it installed on the side thing. I definitely have before. There we go. And now we're just gonna get just way too doubled over. But here we can jump over to there. Okay, yeah, this is the poll right here. Is there anything else anyone can do about Bitcoin price manipulation? Yes, no, unsure, and I'll manipulate your price. With 7 votes so far, I'll go with this bottom one. And now I have to go to the Twitters, and let's see. Okay, I retweeted it. Now I have to vote, and it's 45%. I'll manipulate your price. So we know where our fans are at. 11% say yes, 33% say no, and 11% say unsure. So I get the people have spoken, and so far is I'll manipulate your price, which I appreciate that. Thank you for not taking this question seriously because yeah, whatever. Problem is I think this whole because it isn't just an investigation because it isn't just the Department of Justice actually probing into Bitcoin. I don't think that's the entire story here. That isn't the entire effect of the thing, and this isn't the entire effect for anything where somebody's being investigated. Like the whole thing with Hillary back during the campaign with Trump was right before, like what was it, like a month or a couple weeks before the election. The FBI came out and was like, "Yeah, no, we're reopening whatever investigation," and it's if it was just that investigation, it wouldn't have mattered, I don't think, as much as it would. Like if the biggest change that affected was because they declared that they put that out there and they put out that doubt as to her credibility, as to anybody connected to her, their credibility. The same thing with this Bitcoin piece. And maybe you can say it's the media's fault, maybe you can say it's the government's fault, maybe you can just say it's our fault for being so kind of tuned in and almost addicted to the media at this point. But the one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest things that's happening is that Bitcoin is now gonna it's just another kind of smear campaign on Bitcoin. It has another kind of red mark on it because, oh well, did you hear? Yeah, no, that's just the currency just used for buying children online or buying drugs or buying guns. And oh yeah, no, it I heard that Mount Gox, it was hacked, so that means Bitcoin was hacked, right? And now oh well, the Department of Justice is investigating them and is looking into the trading that makes the market unfair or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I think the problem is, and I don't know that this really affect anybody who really cares about Bitcoin as far as the poll shows. It doesn't seem like it, but that might just be a good representation of our listeners. But I don't think it's really going to affect anybody who's already in on Bitcoin. Everybody who's already in on Bitcoin are just going to be like, oh well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess this happen like if we don't have if you have decentralized, if you are if that is an option, if that's like a built-in thing that the government doesn't just run it, then you're going to have people who try this and don't have all the money to just make the politicians shut up because normally shit like this happens. There's fraudulent practices in the traditional stock market, in the dollar, in the kind of corporate America market that we just have set up. There's plenty of corruption there. There's plenty of issues with that, and anybody you ask will generally say that there are, and will admit that there are problems there, and that generally the people who are doing well in that are just the super wealthy, are just the people who have, like I said, enough money that they or connections that they know people that then they will just pay off the politicians. And I think as far as why this is being brought to the forefront, why this is being made such a big deal, as far as why this is an issue now for Bitcoin, because I mean, I would say this has been happening for a while. I mean, I remember when Mount Gox was going under was because I guess they had set up some bots that were fucking around with trading stuff. I mean, I've always kind of just accepted from probably maybe the like first couple months I started being into Bitcoin was that yeah, no, this is a smaller market. This is not as controlled of a market. This is uh smaller isn't even doing it just compared to the US dollar. This is nothing. Bitcoin is still nothing. So yeah, you can have people who would not normally be able to make any kind of an impact on the stock market or on the world stage in the dollar make a much bigger impact, and the barrier to entry for making that kind of impact is much less. And I think that's if you're getting into like, oh well, they're just trying to keep people, like I could see, well, like it just seems like they're just going after this because it isn't the insanely rich, like traditional rich, because like you still have to be pretty rich to be able to pull this off in Bitcoin. It's not that small of an ecosystem, but they're not the traditional wealthy. They're not the people running Boeing. They're not the people running Halliburton and all these different defense contractors that basically own the politicians in this country, that basically are running most of the stuff. And Bitcoin kind of has that danger to all of that shit where we're okay, well, this system's kind of stacked against the common person. This system's stacked against anyone who isn't in the billionaire kind of quality. Not to say that it hasn't risen, it hasn't brought us up to unbelievable standards of wealth and prosperity and um and just comfort compared to what we've had to deal with in the past 100 years, what people have had to live through. But as far as being the best thing for your money, this system isn't it anymore. I don't think it has been for a long time. And I'm not talking about back in the 60s with taking off the gold standard. I think we were the whole dollar system as far as it was fucking the average person for way before that. So Bitcoin is our answer to that, and just saying, well, okay, fine. I mean, I have no real, my best place for my money isn't in this system. The best place for my money is in a system where I can actually make a difference. I'm going to take my ball and go play a smaller game, because the game I'm trying to play has just been they've been playing it for so long, and they are so far ahead of you in the game that you were never going to catch up. You were never going to beat them at that game. So take it out and put it into Bitcoin. I can't help but think that this is the reason why this is such a big thing for them. This is them coming out and saying, we need to make this fair and correct, and we need to, because they just want to get their hands on it. They just want to get their influence on there and start to change how people are allowed. Like, they're just going to change how free it is, which sure, it'll save people some money, but in the end, do we want that? Is that the reason why Bitcoin was created? And not to get into a debate of like, well, what is Satoshi's true vision? I mean, that doesn't really fucking matter. It's just, it's whatever you really make it. But as far as how I look at it, what I want for Bitcoin, what I said before, where I think it's actually going to help the world, change the world, make things different in the world, is to let people get out of this the dollar system that has to collapse at this point. Like, it is, and I'm not one of these people that says it's going to happen next year. There's people out there that it's like every single year, well, no, now it's going to happen. You see what they're doing? They're just putting up more debt, and it's like, well, at however many $1 trillion we're in debt, it's kind of sustainable at this point, because there's a reason why it's not being uh why people aren't coming and calling on the debts, is because we're basically just selling our military might. We're keeping wars going. We're keeping things going so that we can still kind of have an economy of making arms and sending out stuff like that. So it is sustainable. We've been doing it for about 70 years. So it's not like it's not going anywhere. But if you want out of that, if you want out of a system that is actively working against you, is devaluing your currency every single day, and it's not in free fall like Venezuela. I don't want to suggest that it is like that, because Venezuela doesn't have a military that can crush the entire rest of the world, and I think that's the only real difference. That's the reason why they're in hyperinflation, is because they don't have that military might. They don't have that military brawn to back up that, hey, like, we're going to pay you back probably, but you really want to not give us money, because then we'll just get pissed at you and start bombing you. Because anytime a country starts fucking with the money, starts fucking with the petrodollar over in the Middle East, we all of a sudden just, we're just going to destabilize this a little bit, kind of set off some wars. We're going to start funding some rebels in this area, and then we're going to basically kill you if you don't kind of play ball with us. And Bitcoin, going all the way back to Bitcoin now, this is a little bit of a rant. Bitcoin lets us get out of that, lets us decide to kind of hold our money ourselves. And yes, that comes with the risk of, you might make some bad investments. You might put too much money into Bitcoin. You might do whatever. But we talk about on this show all the time where we're not in Bitcoin for a couple days. None of us are traders. None of us are people who are like doing like, oh, well, Bitcoin went up by $1 a day. Yeah, I made like a bunch of money on that because I bought and sold like several hundred times. None of us do that. We're all kind of just in it for the long haul, whether it goes well or good, because we do have that extra little bit of backing of where even if Bitcoin was $700, I'd still think it was a good idea because it's just it's a way to exchange goods, a way to exchange value outside of the dollar that works better than silver or gold. It's actually feasible. Like that's kind of cool thing about Bitcoin, where I got into silver and gold and stuff like that before Bitcoin. And I'd look at stuff and people would make videos like, yeah, no, tip people in silver whenever you go out to eat. Do that. Do that. It's like no waiter is going to be happy that you left them like a couple like quarter-ounce fucking silver squares. I'm like, what the fuck is this bullshit? I can't spend this someplace. What the fuck are you giving me change for? No one's gonna like that. You can't give them like a 1 ounce round of silver. Oh, you did a good job. Here's this bullshit you can't spend anywhere. Waiters don't want that. You can't just give silver to people in general. Like if you don't already have an established kind of repertoire with them, you can't just give people silver like that. You can't pay people in silver like that. I don't even know if I ever have. I'm not sure. But Bitcoin is something where whether it's just generated enough interest or people do kind of see the usefulness of it, where you can get strangers to just accept Bitcoin from you. Just go, oh yeah, no, I just have to take this phone thing, click this, we'll look at this QR code, I'll send you $10. People are fine with that. Most people wouldn't take $10 worth of silver from a just random person on the street. At least I would. I would predict that. As far as if you go up to somebody on the street just randomly and go, oh no, let me give you $10 worth of silver. I really think it's going to help you down the road. I want you to get into the silver market. Most people aren't going to do that. Bitcoin is something different. Bitcoin is something special in that sense where with just how connected of just through the internet and everything that we are as a culture, as a world, people are much more interested and uh, much more likely to get involved with something like that, and much more like, yeah, no, sure, I'll just download an app because we're already so used to that anyway. We download apps all the time. We download some new app to play music. We down some new out we download some new app. Jeez, I'm fucking that up. Never mind. All that to say, I think Bitcoin definitely has a lot more of a possibility of making a difference with stuff like that, of like actually people paying attention to how it's changing, how it could be used in between us, because Bitcoin is a currency of, especially more than the dollar, people. It isn't a currency of the necessarily rich and elite. As much as they want to try to smear that and make it an issue as to who's using it, and I understand that I fall into that category, so me defending it isn't really saying that much, because I am a white male, so nothing I really say I can't really refute as far as them just saying, well, it's just overwhelmingly that. But it isn't something like the US dollar. I mean, the US dollar at its highest point is very overwhelmingly white male. The US dollar, these corporations are overwhelmingly white male. So it isn't even like Bitcoin. The same thing with how Bitcoin, they use that to buy drugs all the time. And again, the dollar does that more. It's a difference of just the size and the scope of the market. But you can't say that Bitcoin isn't for a common person, isn't for someone when every single day involved with the dollar, they are being fucked out of their money by inflation. They are being, at every step of the transaction, being taxed and having money taken away from them just for using their money. Like, I understand you can make the argument, and that's a whole different thing where, well, we need taxes to live in a society and we need to be able to pay things. But the fact that there's, anytime you spend money, beside they give you like a few free items, but most of the time whenever you're spending what oh yeah, no, here, we just need a little bit of cut of that because it's our money, and fuck you. That's all it is it just that. And Yeah, you pay a transaction fee in Bitcoin, but that isn't the same as a 7%. I mean, in Pennsylvania, it's a 7% sales tax, not even to mention all the other taxes you have to pay whenever you use the US dollar, whenever you get paid by your company, whenever you pay them, whenever they take money out, all of it's taxed multiple times. So you can't say that Bitcoin isn't something that is useful for the average person, that is useful for a person who doesn't have as much money. We can see that plenty of times in other countries. We can see that in Venezuela. We can see that in underdeveloped countries where their money is, because, like I was saying before, don't have this military might and this military just machine that goes out and just causes havoc throughout the rest of the world, and they don't have that to back up their currency. So their currencies are actually in free fall hyperinflation. So it just the difference between maybe eating that month is having Bitcoin versus having whatever dollar that is, or whatever, not dollar, but whatever currency is around them, and whatever currency is being just drained of all its value. So I just don't like. I think Daniel even wrote in the show notes, like, do we even care? I just don't care. I like the fact, that's like one of the reasons why I like Bitcoin, is the fact that it is unregulated, that it can be affected by the average person, that it can't, not the average person, but it can be affected by these people who aren't necessarily in this established wealthy system. I don't like that. I don't like the establishment corporate wealth. And again, as I said before, it's brought about lots of prosperity. It's brought about lots of whatever the fuck. We have advances in medicine that I'm sure we would not have reached without a certain amount of like forced theft of money and then putting it towards certain things. But that still doesn't make up for the fact that these people basically are just kind of just leaking the money dry of its value for their own personal gain, are kind of sucking at, they are actually parasites at that point, where they're kind of just leeching off of you all using the dollar, you all using the kind of traditional system. So why not get on Bitcoin? And anything like this is just a reason, it seems like just a kind of just a flippant reason to just attack Bitcoin and to go after it and to make it, oh well, this is scary, and this is how you lose money, and this, no, use the dollar, it's super safe, and it's all we have this great, everything in here is completely certified and is completely free, and it's safe, and it's just great for you guys, and no matter what happens, we'll always protect you. You'll get your money back if you get scammed, but not if you live in the US over 30 years and you have to deal with just constant, just every single day your money is just losing its value. Your uh everything that happens in the US, they kind of just go, oh well, no, that, I mean, that you're kind of fucked there. But if someone steals money from a bank, if there's a bank robbery, we got you. And yeah, no, you're good. So yeah, I just don't care. I don't. I'm less worried about individual actors, and I say this a lot. I'm much less worried about individual actors and individual, they call it, like, bad apple people who cannot ever do as much damage to you as an individual as a government can, as a legal, like, the full power of the legal system coming down on you, and people who have an established position in that, have friends there, have the influence, the money, the power, where you're nothing. Like, the average US citizen is nothing to these people, and would be crushed if they even tried to get involved with that. We even tried to, they're just complete, these people live in a different world. It's not at all the same thing as what you and I live in. And I think something like Bitcoin gives us just a different world. Like, okay, fine, I don't like your world, I don't like what you have and what you're offering me, so I'm going to go and get involved in Bitcoin and focus on that, and not have to worry about the fact that maybe my money won't be worth half of what it is now. I don't know exactly the statistics. I guess I could look it up. um but how much inflation has just affected us since maybe even 90 in the 70s. But before I do all that, I see you guys in the chat. Thank you. Thank you. I'm making wonderful points, Jared. I won't suck my dick too much, but hello, Flapping Plemis. Nice to see you again. Are you the guy who I found? Are you the guy who drove into the tree on the bike? I can't remember if that was you or a different Plemis who was on here. Um, but okay, let's see. 1990 versus 2017. Wait, what? $100 in 1990 is 187.29. Okay, so the average inflation rate between 1990 and 2017 is 2.35% per year. Prices in 2017 are 87.3% higher. In other words, $100 in the year 1990 is equivalent in purchasing power to $187. So you're losing over what was it's 27 years. Over 27 years, we've lost almost. That'd be 100%, wouldn't it? Because you're going from 187 to $100. That's almost 100% that it has just fallen apart because it's what? Yeah, what I say, 27% or 27 years, and it's 2.35% per. No, that'd be like 50 something. I don't know. I don't understand this, but it just all that to say, I don't know exactly what I'm talking about whenever I say stuff like this. Um, but the inflation is a big issue, and the fact that even like wages haven't gone up in a while, and all they like across the board. I'm not talking about the minimum wage. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just in general, wages are not increasing like the way that they say they have been, or the way that they say they should with inflation. Where well, everything's more expensive, but people just get paid a lot more, and it's like, no, not really, not as much as you think from the '90s. It's not that big of a difference. Like before, there was some, but all that's really been around recently has just been these housing bubbles that they keep on pumping up, and in real estate stuff like this where they just, oh well, yeah, here you can make your money here and then lose it all whenever we just fuck the market up. So I don't really see them making. They're not making any promise. They're not keeping any of these promises or keeping anything good for us. They're just everything's just inflating. Everything it's not benefiting the average person at all. It doesn't help you to if you kept, say you decided to, you retired in like 1990 and you saved all your money, you had it in the bank. Um okay, damn it. Now okay, either Daniel or Zack hacked into the show right now and are posting things, or maybe one of you hacked in, which I would prefer if one of you guys hacked into us, because then I would at least feel uh, somewhat accomplished that someone took the time to attack us. But if you put I don't know like $50,000 into a savings account in 1990, you retired then. If you retired at like 50, it's not that hard to see yourself living till 80. And then in that time, or like 50 or 77, like we'll take the 27 years. In that time, every single year that money sits in that savings account. I mean, obviously it's different if you have it invested in things like in the stock market. And that's part of the only reason why the stock market is as bloated as it is because it's a nice way to not have your money taxed every year, because like, yeah, no, just put it in here and we'll kind of fuck around with the money. It'll help boost our stuff. Uh, that's again a different thing. But if you again put in like that much money in 1990 every single year from then until now, you're trying to live on it. You're trying to continue to have continue to live at the same standard of living that that you retired at. Most people don't want to then drop and go back to living like they were in their 20s by that time. But every single year, it was 2.35% of that money, like the purchasing power you lost because it just sat there and because you didn't do something with it. And this is why the US dollar, and it is like we say, it's based on debt. It is only debt. and it doesn't. It is only good for purchasing things. It's not even good. It doesn't hold its value. That's people are encouraged to just spend their money because, like again, the average is 2.4%, 2.35%. So you can round up to 2.4. I'm still right. Fuck you. Every single year you don't spend that money on something, you're losing 2.34% of the value. And as you accumulate more money, that 2.34% means a whole fuck a lot more every single time you increase the amount of money that you're saving. So it's not going, this kind of system isn't going to promote people to save. It's not going to promote the average person to keep their money, to keep things like that. So again, I guess for the last little bit, I should talk about some of the specifics in this report. This is from CoinDesk. The U.S. Department of Justice has reportedly launched criminal investigation into cryptocurrency traders who may have manipulated the market using old school illicit tactics. Okay, I guess before I get into this, you can find us again at umeandbtc.com/live or YMB, and I need to find this again, ymb.tc/live, and you can get to our newest episode. If we have a live episode, then you'll find it there too. Back to this CoinDesk article, and I'll throw the screen share back on just so you guys can see that. There we go. And you guys are going to get this accordion style thing again, but you'll deal with it, I'm sure. Follow the Yumi and BTC Twitter page. I'm advertising it too much, but anyway, okay. The U.S. Department of Justice has already... No, I already read that. According to a report by Bloomberg on Thursday, citing anonymous sources familiar with the probe, the investigation is being conducted together with the Commodity and Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC. It's a lot of acronym name, a lot of uppercase name, and organizations involved, which is always just great for the average person. Continuing, one area of the investigation targets so-called spoofing, a technique that has been used in traditional financial markets to affect price movements by making large volumes of fake orders that possibly influenced trades of Bitcoin and Ether, according to a report. In addition, the DOJ, Department of Justice, is probing crypto traders who may have cheated the system by sending themselves large volumes of orders to create a mirage of increasing demand in order to tip other investors into making a move. The news marks the latest episode, but the news marks the latest effort by the U.S. authorities to ensure a fair cryptocurrency market, since the CFTC gave the green light to domestic exchanges to list Bitcoin-backed futures in derivative products last year. I hadn't read that before. Again, this makes sense that they are doing this again under the guise of, well, I mean, we're going to build into Bitcoin all of these kind of ideas that we have only because of the dollar system, only because of all this shit where it's just to make money out of nothing at this point. It's not something that I don't give a shit if you red lighted listing Bitcoin backed futures and derivative products. I wouldn't care. That's not really what I'm interested in. Maybe somebody else is, but I just don't give a fuck about this. I don't care. This doesn't affect me. I don't think nothing in this story is going to change what Bitcoin can do, what cryptocurrencies can do. So why worry about it? I guess the CFTC Commissioner Brian Quintes spoke at a conference in Washington, D.C., and said the agency is particularly focused on fraud, market manipulation, and disruptive trading involving virtual currencies. I just need to get a nicotine fix. But yeah, I guess that's their specialty, is focusing on a smaller market because they have no even ability to grasp the bigger corruption in a bigger market. They're like, well, we can't really do anything about this shit, so let's just pick on something smaller and less world changing and less world affecting, because I mean, the odds of doing anything are just so stacked against us. So let's just give up and not even try to actually bring the dollar under rein as far as ensuring that it is fair or it is whatever. Because part of my problem with anything where people talk about making something fair or balanced is that, yeah, in name only, normally, anytime you have somebody explaining that, well, we're going to force fairness into this issue, we're going to legislate fairness into this situation, it never works like that. It never it that legislating something never does anything besides just push the corruption maybe two steps back, where now instead of just doing something openly where maybe you had a little bit more money, you had a little bit more clout, you could push people around, now you're just, oh, okay, I'll just pay this guy to not care. I'll just pay this guy to kind of put through some legislation that helps me. We'll run smaller companies out of business. We'll do all these things that would be illegal if we didn't have the money, the lawmakers in our pockets anyway. Then from Bloomberg, I believe this is the article the CoinDesk was referencing. All this is coming out today, so we're actually somewhat, what's the word for it? Topical news this week. We're not completely off. And yes, no. You are a lot better at math than I am, Jeremy. And I know this is kind of shooting out on the screen as far as it's just kind of doubling in there, but yeah, that is why people would want to use Bitcoin and silver. And then, yeah, like you said, if you save $1 million for retirement over that course of that year, or over the course of those years, you now lost almost half of the buying power of that $1 million. It's like $600,000 then. But from Bloomberg, this was 4 a.m. this morning, and the Justice Department has opened a criminal probe into whether traders are manipulating the price of Bitcoin and other digital currencies, dramatically ratcheting up U.S. scrutiny of red-hot markets that critics say are rife with misconduct, according to 4 people familiar with them. What? I didn't even read that part before. There are these 4 guys. They say that they know a lot about this shit. They say it's bad. They're taking all these people's money. Let's get some shit done on this. There's 4 people over here that are super familiar with it, and we're going to take them to task over it. They're going to be making all our decisions. Thank you. Continuing, the investigation is focused on illegal practices that can influence prices, such as spoofing, flooding the market with fake orders. I already read all this from the other article. Said the people explaining what the other traders are doing, they ask not to be identified because the review is private. Federal prosecutors are working with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, a financial regulator that oversees derivatives tied to Bitcoin, those people said. Sorry about that if I was too close. I'm starting to get my allergies working up right now. I worked outside all day. They're kicking it bad right now. But anyway, the authorities worry that virtual currencies are susceptible to fraud for multiple reasons. Skepticism that all exchanges are actively pursuing cheaters, wild price swings that could make it easy to push valuations around, and lack of regulations like the ones that govern stocks and other assets. And yes, those are so free of corruption, aren't they? Stocks are the most honest business ever, right? They're just they're really just a nice, easy, clean way to make money. The stock market, yeah, no, yeah, that's definitely how it works. Is the stock market that is the cleanest thing that we've ever made in America. It is basically Jesus Christ in economic form, is the stock market. Bitcoin extended its Thursday declines at the Bloomberg News reported the investigation and was down 3% to $74,000 or $7,400 at 9:32 London time. Why are we going off of London time? I thought Bloomberg was in the US, but I don't know. I'm probably wrong. Such concerns have prompted China to ban cryptocurrency exchanges in nations, including Japan and the Philippines, to regulate them, contributing to a slump that has sent Bitcoin below $8,000 this year. They've been talking about banning and regulating them for 5 years now. It has not stopped since it started. So this is not the only thing that's just driving it down. This is, and I don't know how many more times this has to happen before people start recognizing that this is kind of a cycle with Bitcoin where it jumps way up, loses a decent amount, and then starts to climb back past what that was. Maybe, I mean, you can always say it won't happen this time, but it's happened plenty of times before, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with China. China's talked about banning and then unbanning and then doing whatever the fuck they want with cryptocurrency every single couple of weeks. It doesn't ever stop. So this shouldn't be that big of a deal, but of course it is because, well, this is dangerous, it's unregulated, and it's not as safe and clean and good for the people as the stock market. So we can't have, this is the next point, they have the traders are colluding on the different things. But I'm not going to read this entire thing because it does just kind of come down to, well, we need to protect people, and we need to stop people from being able to just do from being able to manipulate the price that easily, because that's just for us. We can't let that happen to other people. We can't let other people make money off of this. And yes, no, Jeremy Bennett, there was another premise, or maybe it was another flapping, I'm not sure, but they had something of a regulated or a similar name between them. No, I mean, you're not wrong about the stock market. Again, this is coming from me. I don't know any of this shit particularly. I just like to talk about things. So my point is just in general that something like the stock market, you can't use it to compare that. Oh well, Bitcoin isn't necessarily regulated for people. Yes, no, semiconductors and diapers are decent to invest in. I don't mind the freedom of the stock market. I mind the fact that they're using that as a reference for how to be a clean represent or a clean way of doing business. Like the stock market has never been exploited by people. But we were pretty much at the end of the show. I think Jeremy Bennett's advice, because we like to do advice of the week at the end. Jeremy Bennett's advice is obviously to invest in semiconductors and diapers and whatever else. So I guess you get those two, you get semiconductors and diapers, and then you get an extra third where you can throw it wherever the fuck you like. Yeah, no, you have another good point about where, yeah, you can use Bitcoin to also just pay for stuff. It's like it's a stock market, it's a cryptocurrency, it's a value of exchange, it's all kinds of different things in one thing. My advice for the week, I guess, would be don't listen to the voices, don't listen to the that sounds kind of creepy. Don't listen to the people trying to tell you that, oh, well, you should be scared of this because we don't have control over it. We don't have the ability to make sure you're safe. Don't be safe. Don't be worried about going too far on a limb. I mean, you get you at most, even if you want to take a reincarnation view of the world, you maybe get a couple times around the world. By the time that's done, you should have probably gotten to where you are reaching nirvana, or you live as a dung beetle or something like that. So at that point, your life just sucks and you can't really worry about Bitcoin. But live a little bit. Life should be, I think, risky. Things shouldn't just be kind of cookie cutter. Well, you're never going to fail here and you're never going to do whatever. Things should be a little bit dangerous sometimes. Things should have a kind of an up in the air, like, oh, well, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but at least you're having fun. No, but I think that would be my advice, would be don't be so scared to not have mommy and daddy government over your shoulder, making sure everything you do is cool. Don't be scared. And now, uh, I can see tweets to Daniel now, just like from angry like relatives and family. They went out and they decided to do this, and now they're dead. But yeah, just don't get caught up in the scare so much. There's a lot of stuff that they try to push as this. Oh well, it's unregulated, so it must be dangerous and terrible because every single other individual person in the world you meet is just trying to kill you constantly. But yeah, that's my advice. Do something. Engage in something not dangerous. Don't engage in something dangerous, but engage in maybe something. Okay, yeah, there again. Jeremy, yes, clean. If you have a cat, if you don't have a cat and you're just shitting in a cat litter box, if you're doing that, you probably shouldn't clean it because you have other problems. But do something that maybe the Department of Justice says is risky, is dangerous. Be smart about it. Don't just be that's part of the thing of why I like all this is it's good to have responsibility. It's good to have the threat of something going wrong if you aren't being conscious of what you're doing. I think it helps people. But thank you guys for watching, listening. Thank you, Jeremy Bennett and Flapping Plymouth, for joining me in the chat. You guys can catch us next week at 9 p.m. Eastern. This time again, probably back with Daniel and Zack. I'm not sure. I'm planning on just stealing the show from Daniel at some point, so this might be the best time. But again, you can get me at Baker's Dozen 93 on Twitter. Throw me anything if you like the show, if you didn't like it. That's probably the best way to get to me. I don't always notice the YouTube comments. But thank you again for listening. Hope you guys have a good week. And check us out next week at youmeandbtc.com/live, 9 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night. Thanks, guys. Check out Chronologic. Bye.